and welcome to the Parenting Show. I'm Jennifer Anderson. With me, my co-host, family counselor, parenting expert, Alyson Schafer. Today, we're talking about a topic that I hate, and I know she does too. It's homework. I hate. It has got to be the bane of all.
Here's of the many reasons I hate homework. Certainly, one of them is the fact that our families today are busier than they have ever been, and we get very little time together. Important time that we need for building bonds and building relationships and doing all that good stuff for our kids' mental health. And what ends up happening is the evening gets destroyed by arguments over fighting about homework and getting kids to do homework and just sit down and you're not working fast enough, all the different complaints that come up. So here are parents who have a precious few hours with their kids, and rather than playing a game of Monopoly or whatever, are ending up having to scream and scold and get into these negative cycles with their kids. And and for what? This is the part that I think irks me the most, which is that we have a long-standing tradition of homework. But if you actually go to the research, and I'll point parents to the resources, Alfie Cohen has written a book that summarizes all the research that is happening. It's not even just that homework is useless in terms of learning. He has compiled the research that shows it's detrimental to learning. So not only are we not having good family time to build our bonds, we're hurting family times by arguing, by making them do a task that hurts their learning. The whole thing is ridiculous, but it's just this tradition that has lingered on that we think it's a good idea, and you think that you've got that really good teacher because she gives extra homework, so she must be the tough teacher who's really going to get those kids to learn. And it just doesn't hold up. There's just so much about education now that really needs to be looked at. And just because it's historic and it's always been does not necessarily mean it's the right thing to do.
Right. And we can put a disclaimer on this show of the fact that you love teachers. And
I work with teachers all the time. My mother was a teacher. My sister-in-law. I opened 2 nursery schools. My training came before I went and got my master's in counseling. I worked with Adlerian nursery school teachers, and they taught me more about Adlerian psychology than a lot of the profs I had. So no, you're right. I'm not anti-teachers by any stretch of the imagination.
And even when we started the Parenting Show 10 years ago. So even when we started, our 2 little ones weren't in school yet. And since that time, they're now in grade 8, going into grade 9. And we've kind of run the gamut on seeing, and I am a big fan of teachers and a big fan of, what the resources they're given and how they have to teach a million little minds.
I know, unsung heroes.
But I am not a teacher. And there is nothing worse, because I feel, and I know there's questions here that involve it, I feel like when homework is given, it's given to me too.
Yeah, and you're like, so again, how dare you account for my time?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And especially, we just came off holidays where many kids were given homework to do on vacation. So we got the highest anxiety rate we've ever seen in children. They need downtime.
Right.
And it's completely arbitrary. I'm sure you've seen this over the 10 years with your kids. One teacher says no homework. Another teacher has tons of homework. Where is it with the Ontario curriculum that we have to teach kids a certain amount, and yet there's this wild variance in how much homework is ascribed? And I got to tell you an interesting, also cultural story. I had a friend that worked over in Azerbaijan, and over there, teachers are like, I get paid to teach your kids. Marking homework and homework, that's extra work, so I'm not going to do it unless you pay me. So over there, only the wealthy kids who could afford to pay the teacher under the table to do the extra time to assign and mark the paper. So it's so funny that homework over there is a totally thing than homework over here.
Right.
But notice in that story, there's the haves and the have-nots. If you can't afford to tip the teacher, then you don't get the extra resources. And I would say, because I believe in social equality, I think that when you give homework and you expect that a parent's going to be involved in what's required for that homework, you no longer have social equality. Because we have many kids that are in our public school systems, and private for that matter, but not every parent knows the subject matter. Not every parent speaks English as a second or as a first language, or even if they're learning as a second language, doesn't mean they need the terminology, or are home because they don't maybe work the evening shift and they can't sit down beside their child and have that time. So suddenly we're getting again into the haves and the have-nots, and I really think that is truly unfair.
Well, and I don't know how my parents ever helped me, because before the invention of Google and YouTube, I don't know how many times I have to look up a YouTube tutorial on math in order to help my child.
Another reason why parents shouldn't help, because they actually have changed. They've changed the way they teach kids.
Yes.
And I've had many examples of parents being involved in their kids' homework, and then the child gets it wrong because we're going back to our 1970s, 80s, when you're younger than me, education, and they don't teach.
90s, early 2000s.
Oh,
no.
Come on, really?
No.
Oh.
But I like that you got that.
Anyway, math in particular, my sister-in-law is a teacher, and they really have changed the way that they teach some of this information.
Right.
So I really think that it should not be our place. There's a reason why you go to teachers' college. There's a formula for teaching kids things. There's not to say that I can't be supportive in other ways around work that comes home, because even my kids went through this system, and even though I don't believe in homework, I didn't say, you don't have to do homework, I don't believe in it. I went, you know what? I'll sign a petition, I'll do my TV show, I'll try to change the world, but until then, the reality of the world is that we need to do what's asked of us, and the reality is you need to do homework. So, I made sure that we had a good place physically in our house, because I don't think kids should do homework in the bedroom. Neither should parents work in their bed. Neither should you have a television. I know lots of nothing in the bedroom except for sleeping.
Right.
Well, it's a kids show, but for good sleep hygiene, we should not have our mind in two places, thinking about work and productivity and homework, because you'll lie in bed and you'll perseverate. So having a nice workspace in the family area, and having quiet time around the house so the kids can focus, and I think those are fair things to say. If you give me a week's notice, I will go to Michael's and get you poster board. But no, at 7:45 at night, when your project's due tomorrow, I'm not available. So I can be helpful within reasonable limits. I think those are all fine ways for parents to participate. And I think taking an interest in what your child is learning is sort of like the same as asking your partner, how was your day at work? How did the meeting go? Just because I love you and I'm curious about what's happening in your life. But that's very different than interrogation, and that's very different than stepping in and doing kids' homework.
Right.
There's many schools that no longer have science fairs, because when the science fair comes, they're looking at these projects and they're like, wow, your dad made, John, you made a 3D printer. Did you get any help from home?
No.
So parents can't step out.
Right.
They're so invested.
Right.
And it really, in a sense, it doesn't assist the child. The child ends up taking a back role. They don't take pride in what they're learning. They no longer become a stakeholder in the process, and they become discouraged from learning. And then parents say, why isn't he motivated? Why do I always have to help him? It's because you've been a Tommy takeover. Homework is a child's responsibility. You can assist, you can be the co-pilot, but if you overinvest yourself, you will turn them off.
Okay.
Did I say that enough?
Yes.
Can you? A little bit of passion there.
Well, say that again. We asked on social media for some questions. Folks responded, so I have a couple of questions here for you. My child is lying about homework. He either says he doesn't have any or he already did it. How can I make sure he is doing his work when I don't even know what is assigned? This goes back to homework is a child's responsibility, does it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I made an agreement with my kids that I would not look at their agenda. This agenda system that we have in Ontario, most of the school boards have it. I think an agenda is a great way for a child to learn how to create a to-do list and to be able to know what. I don't want an agenda to be a form of tattling or so that a parent is now stepping in and policing kids' homework. So what I said to my kids was, if you guys can manage your homework and meet your commitments and do that independently, then I don't need to see your agenda. I don't need to be involved. But I am going to continue to have my meetings with your teacher on a regular basis, and you can ask for a meeting in between the big cram session where you get like 10 minutes and you stand in the hall and get in, get out. Like, that's kind of frantic. But you can just make a meeting and say, hey, I'd just like to check in, see how things are going. You can do that as frequently as you want with the teacher. And I'll just, you know what, I need to know how you're faring, and I'd love to meet with your teacher and you and just check in. And if it looks like we're having struggles, and if it looks like things are falling off the rails, then we can talk about how we might work collaboratively to make sure that everything goes well. But my assumption is that you're going to be able to manage this. And some days they might have an oopsie or not or whatever, but the faith is there that they will then have to go to school and look their teacher in the eye and say, I didn't do it. And it doesn't feel good to not meet your responsibilities to somebody else, especially if they like their teacher. And I would say, I want every parent to ask themselves this question. How is your child getting along with their teacher? Do they like their teacher, and is the child's perception that the teacher likes them? Because those will be the classes that they'll get the best marks. Those will be the classes that they get their homework done. That a lot of times the refusal comes from like, I don't like Mr. Henderson, I'm not going to do it. And we have to help them unpack how that's really hurting them. And I also want to improve the relationship between teacher and student. But those will be the things that will make a child want to take responsibility for themselves. So now she's saying he's lying. So I'd want to find out what's going on rather than just getting into the whole lying. Lying is a solution to a problem, right? So what is the problem? What is it about homework that he's having a hard time with? And could it be that doesn't like the teacher? Could it be that he's struggling with it and has fallen so far behind that every time he opens up his textbook, he's just looking at it going, I'm stupid, I'm stupid, I'm stupid. And you're sort of procrastinating because it hurts your ego to get going, in which case, maybe we need to get them caught up, or maybe we need to see if there's some underlying disability. There's things I want us to be curious as opposed to dealing with the lying.
Right.
I want to get to the underlying cause, not just the symptomatology sprouts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because there could be self-doubt or a number of reasons why they aren't doing their homework.
There's many things for sure that can go off the rails. So I think we have to start with that compassionate position of, hey, I know you, and I know you're somebody who does their responsibilities, and if you're not and you're dodging a bullet, hey, what's going on? Until
you discover that it's Fortnite.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. Well, and then we can talk about that too, and that's totally valid, know. But I think that if you become harsh with kids, what we know about lying is lying tends to occur in punitive families where kids can't tell the truth for fear of being reprimanded. So you've already closed down one communication port. I'm trying to suggest if we open the communication port, then we start to get the deeper, richer story of what might be going on.
Got it. I love this question. My daughter has very little homework compared to her older brother, but it takes her all night to get it done. How do I get her to just sit and concentrate and get it done? It's about 10 minutes of work, but it turns into an hour ordeal every night. So there's two different areas. It's the procrastination, but it's also, it is a struggle when there are two kids or more in the home, and one has no homework because the teacher doesn't give it,
or it's a younger
and one
grade.
And one has, and for us it's twins, right?
Yeah.
But we've gone years where one teacher doesn't give any, and the other one gives 40 minutes, and it's
in the same grade. Which again just speaks to the idea of like, how can that be?
Yeah.
How can that be? That just is so much variation between teachers. Here's my best understanding, because again, if we're going back to Adlerian psychology and we use the tenet of if a child has a repeated behavior, then there must be some utility or usefulness or benefit in that behavior. And so what would possibly be the benefit of dragging on 10 minutes of homework, and I'm going to say pain and suffering, some kids like, what would be the benefit of making 10 minutes of work stretch for an hour when you could get it done and get on with playing? Well, what's interesting is that if you get your homework done quickly and you get on with playing, I'm going to guess that most of that playing is going to be independent play. That mom's going to go. Parents are very good at saying, just go play, just go play, just go do something else while they get busy on their social media and returning their emails or cleaning the kitchen or whatever. But when it comes to homework, if you say, I can't get it, or come help me, or I can't, parents say, well, I can't ignore that. I got to stop what I'm doing and sit with them. So suddenly you get a child who has come to the learning that if I want to keep you engaged with me, I'm going to draw this out as long as possible so that you stay with me, talk with me. Now, you might be reminding and nagging, and it might be negative interaction, but nonetheless, if I get this done, you're not going to interact with me at all, chances, or you're going to go interact with my brother. So to keep you all to myself, I'm going to keep you saying, sit down, just one question, pick up your pencil, no, not like that, do it again, all the millions of little interactions that come from drawing out homework. So if that's the utility of it, then the way we get the behavior to change is to say, stop making it a successful approach to engaging you.
Right.
So I would say, here's your homework. I'm going to get busy doing something else, I'll see you when your homework's done. Or I might say, I'm willing to sit with you while you do your homework and you're on task, but the minute you get up or get down or get distracted, I'm going to go do something else.
Yes.
And then they learn, stay on task, mommy stay and engage with me. Get off task, mom doesn't nag and remind, mom goes off and gets busy with something else. So I get more engagement from doing what I'm supposed to be doing than doing what I'm not supposed to be doing.
So what do you suggest for more than one child when there's a difference in homework? Because I have a friend who buys workbooks. And so if one child doesn't have homework, they still have to do a half hour of workbook lessons while their sibling also does a half hour of homework. I can see by the scowl on your face that you're not happy with it.
Yeah, you're talking about, again, if the child loved the workbooks and they said, like, everyone's at the table doing homework, I mean, how many younger kids are dying to go to school?
Yes.
Right? They're like, I want to go to school like my big brother. I want to go to school like my big sister. It's often the younger ones who want to keep up. And so they'll actually say, give me something to do. Like, I remember making up worksheets because my kids wanted to. But the minute you mandate it, the minute you say, sit down, you've got homework, it moves out of the part of the brain called play and joy of learning, which is what it should be, and it moves over to the part of the brain that says work, mandated, must do, and suddenly it becomes work. And so then they don't like it, and then they feel like they're being made to do and punished, and learning now gets soured. So I would say, if they want to come to the table, great. If they want to do workbooks, great. If they want to do coloring books, great. If they want to read quietly, great. But if you make the table and the homework time sort of like, hey, this is where the social time of the family is, come do something, don't disturb, but you're welcome to join us, then awesome. But the truth is, life is, when we work too hard to make everything like he has to work, so she has to work. He gets 2 books, she gets 2 books. That actually making things fair is actually making things competitive, because now you're always watching. How much did they get? How much did I get? And the truth is, that's not how life works, that every person is in a unique situation with unique needs. And in the family, we try to get everybody's needs met. Your brother's in a grade older, has a different teacher. He gets 40 minutes, you don't get none. 2 different people, 2 different situations. That's just the way it is.
Right.
It's your brother's birthday. You don't get gifts. Actually, just the birthday boy get gifts. Like this whole, like, oh, I better give them something so they don't feel left out. No, it's based on you get what you need. And when you have more homework, I'll be here to help you when that time comes in your life too. So it doesn't have to be equalized that way. That social equality is not the same as.
Okay. This question's long. I'm going to kind of paraphrase a little bit. How to best work with your teenagers when you judge they aren't getting their schoolwork done, home tasks, university applications done calmly and on time. Regarding my 17-year-old son, he's a top student in grade 12, taking several AP classes, loves hockey, or plays hockey, loves his robotics club. He's applying to several universities, and the forms are quite detailed for the engineering programs. We've started the process, but other activities, hockey, homework, studying, birthdays, etc., have taken up his focus. Now I see the deadline getting nearer. I'm concerned they may not be enough time to get everything done. And he has the exams at the end of January. He acts like the due dates are far away, but in fact they're February 1st. Has he forgotten the actual date since he's juggling so many things? I've tried. You can hear.
She's panicked.
You can hear the panic.
Yeah.
I've tried to gentle remind him to check the due dates, and he gets snippy. So question, do I just step in or do I step back? And what help? She does add, which I love, P.S. My husband agrees with me. So they are on the same page.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
You know, so I'm guessing that she has had this approach to parenting all along. Do you know what I mean? This isn't just come up around university and filling in applications. It sounds like she's been a very invested mom to make sure that deadlines are met and whatever. And he's a high accomplishing kid. He's doing great. Like really, so I'm guessing that he knows in the back of his mind that there is this safety net called mom who makes sure that library books are never overdue, that makes sure that camp forms are always in on time. And this has been a pattern that has probably gone on, and now it's university applications.
Right.
But I bet you that in the back of his mind, he is saying, Mom will make sure this never gets too far off the rails. Now, of course, Mom starts speaking off about the deadlines, and he gives her snipey attitude back because, in fact, he doesn't want to be micromanaged. But it's all part of the system of, like, you remind me, I get mad at you for reminding me, and then you get mad at me enough that we actually get it done. And I suspect that's how this is going to play out again.
Right.
Now, this is why, if you're watching the show and you have younger kids, and I say, if you remove the safety net and say, that's your deadline. Those are your library books. I guess if they're late, you'll pay the overdue fine. Or that's your camp form. You didn't get it in on time. Everyone's going to camp. I guess you're staying home. They have to experience the consequences so that they really believe it's their responsibility. And they're only going to do that if you take your safety net out from under them. And so I think she's saying this is too intense a time for this to happen. But I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, whatever, no harm, no foul. But just know, if you want this to change in the future, he's going to have to take the fall. Some event is going to have to happen where you say, it's not my job to mind your responsibilities. Not your deadlines, not your homework, not all the other things that she thinks are so important. She's got to stop running his life.
Well, and he's 6 months away from potentially living on his own.
Yeah.
A few hours away,
right,
and not having that safety net.
And she can't be calling saying, I'll call your professor when your first paper is late, which parents do all the time. The universities tell me this. She can't
Really?
Yes. They will call and they will, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We really are not setting our kids up for independent living. And again, this probably crosses a bunch of areas. Will he manage his money fine for his lunch, his, campus food bills, or is he going to be calling home after the first month saying, can you send more money? If Mom sends more money, he's never going to learn. Like the rubber has to hit the road around being responsible in any area of life, let alone just generally in all of life.
But you've mentioned two situations, right? There's the Bristol board at 7:45 at night, and there's a deadline for a university application that changes a year. So two very different. So do you choose your battles?
No, but that's why I'm saying, when you say no to Michael's,
yes,
the parents that are at home that have their kids in grade 8 that have to do the Bristol board thing, they're like, oh, no, because if I don't get the Bristol board, he's going to fail the mark. I'm like, yeah, it's one mark. It's not getting into university and losing a year that you could be in higher education. You want to do the take time for training when the stakes are small. Just parents think every stake is so big. They're like, if he doesn't get the Bristol board, he's going to drop out of grade 8. He's going to be homeless. He's going to join a gang. He's going to be in prison. I'm like, are we talking about a Bristol board? Where did you go? But parents will just magnify everything, and then that continues along until you do get to the big things like university, where the stakes are really, really high. And so at some point you got to decide, this mistake has to happen. And so if he doesn't get it in for university, he may be hanging. I actually think that kids probably could benefit from a lap year anyways. But my guess is if she said, I just need you to know I'm done nagging about this. If you want to go to university, you will figure out the application form. That he will get creative. He might pull 3 all-nighters and it'll drive her crazy. But something tells me if he really wants to go into engineering and he really wants to go with his cohort of friends, he'll figure it out.
Right.
They magically do.
And in the meantime, there is a whole Bristol board revolt for parents across the province, across the East Coast.
I'll tell you, what I did was, my mother was an art teacher, so we always had all these great art supplies at home. And so when my kids were in school, I just had like this whole resource center. So I always had 5 pieces of Bristol boards. I always had those little foamy letters. I always had glue pens and whatever. And I just kept the supply cabinet full so that, you know, even though I'm...
You were like a dealer. You were like an art
dealer. Can you imagine? I got a piece of Bristol board. Any mom who wants it in the next 15 minutes for tomorrow's project, I'm marking it up 10%.
That's right.
Yeah, you're on to me now.
Yeah. And by this, it was because you actually had to pick up a rotary phone and call.
That's my flip phone. Old school.
Yes.
Bristol. People saying Bristol board. It's all PowerPoints now.
I know. Yeah. I know. So whether or not we're talking about the 17-year-olds or kids just getting into school, the idea is to step away from homework.
I can't, we have to get over, we have to believe that kids can be responsible, that we underestimate their abilities. And we underestimate their abilities because we refuse to transfer the responsibility to them because we're so fearful of the mistakes they're going to make.
Right.
They are going to, and they must make mistakes. That's how we learn. It's part of the process. So your fear is correct, but you should be excited about it because I'm like, I want them to not get the Bristol board. I want them to experience mistakes because that's when the learning happens. It says, nobody's going to do this for me unless I do it for myself. Yes. Right? So yes, there's going to be pain. Yes, it's going to be a little ugly, sloppy. Marks are going to be dropped. There will be tears, but you're still on the right trajectory to raising a responsible child.
1 minute left. There's information on your website, I'm guessing, about homework as well as a multitude of different parenting subjects.
Absolutely. I've got a pretty robust blog, and again, you can do a Google search, and please feel free to fill in the comment field. But also, you know, I have been the columnist for Huffington Post for 3 years now, and I write articles for them weekly. So sometimes I get too time crunched to be able to post on my own site. So if you want another 3-year compendium, also check out my columns there as well.
Awesome.
Just Google Alyson Schafer in your question and it'll pop up somewhere.
And of course, on your website, also information about your books. That's always available on the site. And make sure you grab a copy because they are amazing.
Yeah, and grab my e-newsletter because if you want to know upcoming workshops, whether they're mine or other Adlerian events from some of my colleagues or whatever, I send them out once a month. I try not to bug your inbox too much, but that'll keep you on top of whatever's new and happening.
Perfect. And no more Bristol board. Thanks so much for watching.
The big takeaway.
Yeah, we'll see you next time on The Parenting Show.